Hi all. Well, here I'm a little bit later than I'd planned, thanks to the tournament lurgy. I've been pretty much ill for the past week, so I've not got around to catching up with anyone else afterwards. But hopefully this is the first of a few as I get started catching up with people after the tournament. And joining me for this one is Dan.
Yes, it's me.
Yes, then I don't think we're jumping ahead with much spoilers here. The no longer champion.
Well, that depends how you define champion. I'm not the Clash of Kings champion, but I am still the UK number one ranked player, which I'll take.
So we went over Dan's list earlier on in one of the previous videos. Feel free to go over listen to it. We'll not step through his list again, but he's got his nasty haired army with him. And we'll get on with the first game. So your first opponent has a most awesome name. Is it pronounced Jesus?
I believe it's pronounced Jesus.
Jesus San
He's
Diego. I'm going to guess he was from the
yeah,
Spanish contingent.
Jesus, something like that. I'm not very good with. Yes, he was. He was. I found out after the game he's the Spanish national champion, but no
Ah,
one
right.
told me this. And quite how I managed to get him in the first game, it seems a bit fluky, but yeah.
So his was the very nice, the very nicely painted Basilians.
Yes, yes. I don't suppose it's a spoiler. Well, it is a little bit, but to say that he actually won the best Mantic painted army, it was very nice. It had all the water effects. So basically, there was like a Panther Lancer who'd fallen off into the water and was a big splash and everything. So, yeah, very nice looking army. He was a nice guy to fight and lovely to look at his army.
So run through what we had here in his list. He had a Horde of Crossbowmen, the Jar of Four Winds.
Yes, he did. He had a
Remind me, what
Paladin
does Four
Footguard.
Winds do?
That's for one that gives the extra range.
Ah, right, okay.
Hmm.
Unusual. No, I've not seen that used before. Yep, so the Paladin Footguard, two Hordes of Aeoli, one with
Yeah.
Caterpillar, one with Blessing. That looks pretty
Hmm.
normal. Unit Knights with Strength.
Note
Sys-
that that's a Knight Horde
oh,
with strength,
yes. Sugar, that is.
not a
That's
regiment.
20, isn't it? Yeah, that's 32 attacks. Okay, that's quite a big mob indeed.
It is. It's one of the hardest hitting things in the game, especially with brute strength. It
Yeah,
hits a lot harder than a stampede.
crushing three in the charge, yeah, and crushing one out. Yeah, that is nasty. Then we've got two troops of Panther Lancers, one with the Blade of Slashing, a Priest, a bit of healing, a War Wizard, so some Fireball, and a Phoenix. Big ones with a Breath Attack. Pretty solid looking list to me.
Yeah, good list.
So we've got, fortunately Dan, unlike me, didn't quite take as many pictures as he wanted, but at least he pulled one off the feed of the deployment, this silly ropey picture. So why don't you talk us through the deployment here then, Dan?
Um, well, I've got my avatar down there at the bottom. Stampede's in the middle with some chaff and a shaman. And then on the far left, my left, and I'm on the left side of the table. There's more chaff with lichens and a mounted shaman. Oh, and the spirit walkers in there as well. Yeah.
So how did this one play out?
Um, I put my avatar forward right behind the obstacle, figuring that is a low he might charge, but they're going to be penalised, so they're hitting on fours, they'll lose the TC, at which point they shouldn't really do that much damage. I mean, you're only talking 9 hits, and let's see, CS1, you know, I wouldn't expect more than 5 or 6 or something. And it's got Iron Resolve as well, so I would expect very little damage, and then, you know, be absolutely fine. No, that's not what happened. He did 10 damage.
Ouch.
Yeah, basically doubled the odds. I still Iron Resolved one, but that then meant that my avatar, he had to run away very, very fast. He didn't have flight, so I literally pivoted and ran out to the table edge facing nothing, and didn't really do much for the rest of the game. Oh well, never mind. Everything else sort of moved up onto the big hill you see in the centre, and got ready to face off against everything. I didn't get too close. I didn't want that Stampede charging me, even if it was going to lose its TC. With that brew as well, it still would have made an
You mean the Night
awful
Horde?
mess. Yeah, the Night Horde. So I made it a little bit cagey. I moved my Panthers, my Were Panthers, the Lycans forward on the left, and that was fine. Jesus, sorry, not very good at pronouncing. He threw some Panther Lancers into my Lycans and completely missed the fact that I would have a nimble charge onto his Alohi on the left. I went into them, wiped them out in one go. At which point I was facing his army with my Lycans right on the flank, and it all started crumbling from there, really. His Night Horde, because it couldn't charge anything or get anywhere any worthwhile, it backed off. But he miscalculated quite badly, because the next turn I was able to get both Lycan Hordes into the Night Horde and the Stampede.
Oh.
He'd said that he hadn't realised about the Stampede having the Strider, but I'll be honest, even without that, I don't think it would have mattered. All three of those units. Yeah, so that went in one go as well. His Alohi on his left, down by my avatar, did a bit better. They took on a Stampede, but then I managed to do a bit of counter charging and such and wiped them out. At that point, it was just down to the last few units, and I quickly mopped them up, and got myself a 19-1 win.
So off to a cracking start then.
Yeah, good start.
So next up, you were playing Daz, who we also did a video with and went over his list. So if anyone wants to know, you can go watch that one. Check that out.
Darren
cross promotion.
Parks. Didn't expect to be hitting him game 2, and he's a good player. So that was a bit of a surprise, but a pleasant one. It was good to get a game against him.
Well,
the second game
you say
was,
a pleasant one, Dan, but I know we talked before the tournament about the lists and the stuff I'd recorded. We both looked at Dan's list and thought we could have that.
Yeah, well, that's why I said it was pleasant.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, excellent. I'll be honest, it was actually a pretty decent list, but yeah. Okay, so we actually had exactly the same number of units, but he started deploying first, and basically I used to think we had the same. Anyway, I basically was able to out deploy him slightly. I had my avatar on his left flank, and that was great. If I could get first turn, I could advance it and be on the flank of all his army, and he couldn't do anything about it. He got first turn, so I couldn't do that. But it was fine. He had his chariot horde on the left as well. But over here, in this picture here, we're seeing my right flank, and this is my first turn. You can see Darren advanced slightly with his Dracons, and I basically put both Lycan hordes right into that difficult terrain. The thought being that if he's going to charge me, well, he might as well be penalised. I've got Pathfinder, so I don't care. And also, I'm looking at the nice flank of that lovely what they called the shooty spiky sea guard.
They're called sea guard.
Yeah, sea guard. They are. Yeah. So yeah, and notice also that chaff pack of mine. That was obviously intentional, because I figured he also might fly over and then pivot towards the rest of my army. But if he does that, he's now got a chaff pack in his rear. Does he really want to give me 18 attacks? And I could Bane chant him too. No, he didn't want to do that. So instead, he went straight into the front of one of the Lycans with the being penalised for difficult terrain. Honestly, I don't know why he did that. It just seems like not an ideal decision. Anyway, he did it. Didn't do much damage. I regen most of it back. The next turn wiped out the Dracons, and that flank just started falling apart then. So that was pretty good. And then on the other side, we can see the Dragons move forward. My Stampede and Avatar ended up moving forward as well. And you can just make out, in the distance on the left, you can see some bolt throwers. They plinked away all game. Honestly, I don't recall them actually doing anything. They did a bit of damage each turn. Yeah. Now, his Archer Horde in the centre, along with his Sea Guard first turn, they were actually pretty dominating. Before I even got my first turn, they wavered a Stampede.
Ouch.
Yeah. It backed off on my turn slightly out of range, but he just moved forward, shot it again. Pop! Not a great start there, but oh well. At least I was about to get those Dracons, so that was good. You can't see him very well, but he's got chariots just behind the Stampede, in between them and the hill. I moved my chaff right in front of him, and he had a choice of he could charge the chaff. Not ideal. What he wanted to do was the riskiest of all things, waver them to get in the way of the Stampede. Mm-hmm. He tried to do it, and he did a little bit of damage, and it was like, is that enough damage? Should I do a bit more? Anyway, he routed them anyway. Oh well, never mind. So the Stampede right in the face of the chariots, boom. There go the chariots.
Yeah.
Then they turn to face for in that wood. That's Spirit Walkers you can see there by the dragon. Mm-hmm. They went into the dragon. And the dragon's a bit weirdly positioned, but that was actually the dragon's front, not its flank.
Right.
It was enough to take its flight away, which was all I cared about, really. And then, bizarrely, those archers you can see, they actually charged all the way across into my Stampede after it had pivoted and such. Didn't do much damage, but it got rid of the TC, and it locked him in place, stopped him fighting the dragon. Mm. So, yeah, that does make sense. So it all got a little bit messy. My avatar swung past and got behind his entire army, which is one of the reasons he sent those archers forward, because otherwise he would have had an avatar in his flank or rear. Mm-hmm. But what he did, he was quite clever. He left a wizard right in the middle, within range, within charge arc of my avatar. Now, it was a clever move, because what he also did was he turned his dragon around to threaten such, and if I took the bait and didn't rout it, he would get his dragon into the flank of my avatar. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I had a choice. There's two charges for the avatar. I could go for the wizard, the bait, or I could go for the bolt thrower in the woods. Go on. I went for the wizard. I thought I should do it. You know, 9 attacks with elite. You know, it's a reasonable chance. No, I rolled terrible, didn't I, to hit or whatever, and yeah, it all went poor. And then I got his dragon in the flank.
Right, yes. There's a little bit of a jump there. Would you like to go back and explain how you got the dragon in the flank?
Well, I charged his wizard. That's what I was saying.
Oh, right. So the way you said it there, I thought you'd got the charge in the flank.
No. I charged his wizard. Didn't route it. At that point, you bounce off. His dragon went in my flank, and it wasn't pretty. He routed the avatar in one go.
Ouch.
I don't think he was damaged, but maybe it had been plinked by a bolt thrower. But either way, it was gone. But it wasn't too critical, because by that point, I'd wiped out his Sea Guard with my 2 Lycans that were dominating on the other flank. Mm-hmm. And my Stampede was able to take out his archers, and my Spirit Walkers had been killed. So at that point, I'd actually got a bit of damage on the dragon, and I was able to do a nimble charge with those Lycans around his other elven mage into the damaged dragon. It was in the front, but because I'd already damaged it, it was enough to waver it. And then the turn after, and this was at the end of the game by then, I managed to rout it.
Nice.
And I never got to the hill of bolt throwers, but most everything was dead, and I was able to get I was able to push onto his side, no problem. Mm-hmm. With all the markers. So yeah, actually maybe the Spirit Walkers did survive because they've got a marker. I forget. Oh no, that was it. The dragon had 2 markers, and I took it last turn, which is what gave me the markers back. That was it. Yeah, so that was a win. It went down a bit though, because he had killed a chunk. That was a 17-3.
So that led to the next game, a bit of a clash of the titans here. You and Al
Thompson?
Thompson?
So Spanish champion, Darren Parks. Now I'm on to Alan Thompson, the number 2 ranked player in the country. I think someone decided to give me the toughest matchups ever. But do you know what? It was a lot of fun. And I think me and Alan were both pleased to be playing each other. I think so, anyway. So, yeah.
So talk us quickly through his army, yeah.
Yeah, well, what did he have? He had a nice mixture. He had he had revenants in the centre. There was some zombies just to the right, vampire and dragon. And he didn't say ensorcelled armour. And he didn't say it on the page. I was like, he has got ensorcelled armour, hasn't he? Oh, that's on the next page. Turn it over and it says ensorcelled armour. Of course it does. Of course it does. I was a bit confused for a moment. He had a couple of he had some werewolves on the left. There's three three troops of wraiths.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mounted vampire on the left, zombie trolls on the right, and you can hardly make it out, but there's a Revenant King over there as well.
Right.
Very annoying. So it's quite a small army, and what he's done, as he almost always does, he's puts it all in one small portion to really smack right through.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, because I played him before, I guessed he was going to do that, and he did. So I put almost all my army opposite to make it as hard as possible for him to punch through. But note my lichens on the on the right of this picture. Now they were angled to go around that obstacle you can see by that timer. It did delay them slightly.
I bet you they are pretty far out in the flank there.
Well, they are, but they had to be to get past the obstacle. It was that, or they wouldn't be able to ever get a flank because there was obstacles on the other side of that little church. So that was where they had to be to get round. But I mean, it's fine because we were playing an invade, so the ability to just cross the battlefield with nothing stopping them was fine from a scenario point. And I figured by turn 2, 3, they'd easily be in the back. So Alan, he went first, gave me the option to charge his vampire and dragon. I didn't, and then I set up my units as you can see. He then charged one unit into each of those 3 of mine, the 2 stampedes and the spirit walkers. Honestly, it might have been better doing some sort of combined charge, but that's what he did. And the most annoying thing there is the vampire and dragon, the big demon-like thing. He actually managed to waver a stampede.
Ouch.
And the odds were quite far
Yeah, I'm just
against
doing the maths in my head there. I wouldn't have sold him in Vampire and the Dragon in. That was lucky.
Because I mean, all I had to do was okay, it's defense 6, but still Bane chant. You know, it's still going to cause pain. I mean, and that's the that's one that had vicious, vicious with kittens, banner for lead. So, but he wavered it. There we go. He didn't manage to do much to the other 2 units though, so they were able to countercharge. So that stampede there, you can see on the left, the bottom of the picture, I countercharged for vampire, and I actually managed to waver it, which was okay because I had wraiths coming up the flank, but I couldn't really do a lot about it. Mm-hmm. He played that quite nicely. Those wraiths were very effective all game. Yes, so that was okay. The wraiths the next turn charged for stampede, and at that point they'd been hit by a vampire and the wraiths, and they got wavered. And that was the beginning of the end for those, because once you're wavered, you're unlikely to come back unless you get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your opponent starts rolling double ones with wraiths, then you might be okay. But otherwise, yeah. Yeah. So that was getting a little bit messy. The stampede on the right, though, that had got wavered, crazily in the second turn of combat, didn't even get wavered.
Right.
This was pretty awesome because by that point his werewolves had killed my spirit walkers. And he said to me, "Is there any way you can get your stampede into the rear of these werewolves?" And I sort of sighed out and I was like, "Yes, of course, I can charge the rear." Because although you can only do 1 pivot, that's fine if you only need to do 1 pivot. Mm-hmm. And they could see him fine because there was an inch gap. So I told him, "I can do that." And he was like, "Well, I'm going to route that stampede." So he actually turned his werewolves and gave me a rear charge on them. Well, it's because you can't see it in this picture, but my werewolves, my lichens were starting to come in. That's why the werewolves on the top left were turned that way.
Yeah.
So that meant I got the rear of those. And
I'm assuming you didn't route them then.
Yes. And because of the way I angled it as well, his vampire and dragon could then charge nothing. So it was quite a happy stampede. And the avatar,
Sorry, just go back to a second. I'm just looking at the picture and I'm really struggling to see how, with the vampire directly in front of you, an inch away from the stampede, and you're not nimble, assuming he turned the werewolves to face the other way, how you even would get a rear on that?
Well, it's difficult to see in the picture, perhaps. But imagine he moves his werewolves forward an inch. Okay, he's a bit closer now. If you turn the unit, it's going to be even closer. Mm-hmm. Because of the angle of his unit. So at which point, all I had to do was a single 90-degree turn and move forward.
But how?
And then I hit his rear.
Is,
That was
is
it.
is the stampede wide enough to do that turn and not hit the vampire if you're an
Yes,
inch away?
yes, it is. Yes,
Alright.
it's 100 by 150.
Mhm.
So you've got an inch gap, which is 25.4 millimeters. You are 25 millimeters wider on either side, so you've got exactly a zero point 0.4 millimeter gap,
Right. Okay. So
which
oh
is
yeah, I
about
remember someone saying I was reading something that says as long as the is it if the width is less than 50 millimeters longer than the depth, you can do that. Is that the kind of maths roughly?
well, it's got to be if it was 160 by 100, you couldn't do it. But
Right.
I mean, there's no 160 by
Yeah.
100
Okay.
units. So yeah, absolutely fine. One pivot, straight in the rear.
Boom.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good. My avatar picked on his Revenant King, who'd ventured out to give those wraiths, as you can see over there, a charge into the flank of my approaching Lycans,
Hmm.
which was annoying, but
Probably
fine.
not doing enough.
At least, no, it didn't. After that, I was able to stop his Revenant King from doing anything. At which point, I was much happier because the threat of that potential zombie trolls turning around and charging rears and such was terrible. So,
Yeah.
as soon as I was able to disrupt his Revenant King, I was a lot happier. That Stampede on the bottom eventually died. And at that point, he didn't actually have much left on this side of the table. Oh, let me tell you about the crazy combat with that vampire. So I wavered it first turn.
Hmm.
Okay. Next turn, I was like, well, I can't charge it with my Stampede anymore, but it's got 10 damage on it. Fine, I'll charge it with my Shaman,
Hmm.
Combat Shaman. It's got 2 attacks, it's got TC1. Let's give it a go. I go in, I do a damage. Double one.
Oh, gutted for you. Really gutted for you.
Yeah, fine. Okay, next turn, he charges my. I think he charged. Did he charge my Shaman? I think he did. He charged my. Oh no, no. The next turn, he finished off the Stampede with the race. That's what he did.
Hmm.
So the next turn, I charge it again. Still didn't rout it. At that point, it starts running off towards the wood
Hmm.
because we are playing Invade. So there's nothing left on this side of the table now, other than the vampire, his zombie trolls and zombies, and his dragon. So I eventually managed to get my shaman into the vampire again, and finally, right near the end of the game, I actually kill it. Anyway, he had those few units left on my side of the table, and I had my Lycans. I was able to go into his wraiths, kill those.
How
He
did you
did a
take
bit of
down the two
maths.
hordes? The two like big hordes and the
Well,
zombies?
yes. Basically, I sent the 2 Lycans both into the Revenants and routed them.
In the face?
Yeah,
In one round?
I think so.
That's quite impressive.
Did I put the Avatar in the rear as well? Maybe I did.
That
But
would
either
make
way,
sense.
either way, he died quite easily, if
Yeah.
you recall. So yeah. He did some maths and realised I actually had more on his side than my side.
Hmm.
So if he did nothing else, I was going to win.
Hmm.
He didn't like that. So everything started to go back onto his side of the table,
Right.
or at least a chunk of it. The wraiths flew back over, as did the vampire, and they both went into an undamaged Lycan horde. And if you do the maths, I wouldn't even expect it to waver him. Maybe if he gets lucky. No,
Yeah.
he routed it in one go. Of course he
Ouch.
did. Gutted. At that point, things are looking a little bit dodgy because I've not really got the angles. I didn't really expect him to go over there and route it and then reposition. So all I had that could do anything to either unit was I had my combat shaman, the mounted one, who went into his wraiths, and I had my beast pack that went into the front of the defense 6 dragon.
Right.
Fine. The shaman didn't do anything to the wraiths. I had to take the flight away, didn't I? Otherwise, they'd just fly away and win the game.
Hmm.
So the beast pack into the dragon. Okay, I've got 1 or 2 hits. Roll to damage, no damage, but one of the dice is a 1, and they've got vicious.
Hmm.
Reroll the 1, it's a 6. At that point, the vampire can't fly anymore,
Yeah.
and now he's facing all sorts of pain. He's got Lycans around him. He's got an avatar. He tries to break through, but to no avail. I managed to kill off a chunk more. and then I think I finally killed that dragon in the final turn, and then that gave me the win. And the point scores had gone down even more by this point.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 16-4.
It's not bad, 16-4 for a game of that bloody.
Yeah. Well, as I say, he's the number 2. He is a good player, and he did outmaneuver me at various points. So very, very good game. He did have a bit of luck, but
So
I can't
did you
believe
by the sound of it?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You always remember the bad luck. You never remember the good luck.
Well, maybe. So yeah, very, very good close game, and that was the end of day one. And by this point, I was getting a little bit drunk. It has to be said.
Yeah, it was starting to get a little bit messy by that point in the day.
The two of us decided to wander back to our room, drinking lots of mead.
And then we did go back out before you probably sat there for not very long before Nick sort of poisoned you.
He did. He
Bad man.
He bought me free shot. Actually, it was you actually have some responsibility, if I recall.
No, he bought you 3 shots, and then he asked me whether it would take me to throw my game, and I said 20 shots, and then proceeded to try and buy me 20 shots. Thankfully, the bar lady went, no, you can only have 6, and I went, that's not enough for the game then. Which on the whole was quite lucky, because when you actually went to do it, I was suddenly quite concerned I'd have to drink 20 shots.
Wow, yeah. But yeah, it was very good, very enjoyable. Thankfully, you were still sensible despite being drunk, and we went back to the hotel early.
Yeah, we pulled you out a little bit earlier. There's a lot of an eject moment where it's time to take Dan home.
So my hangover was actually in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. Bizarrely, despite being drunk as anything, by the time I woke up in the morning, I was okay. Didn't even really have a hangover.
That was a mistake on my part. So day 4 came around. Game 4 came around in the second day, and I'm guessing this is Paul Fox with these Night Stalkers.
Yep, that's right. Mixture of models, Skylander trolls and all sorts. Yes, so I've not really faced Night Stalkers an awful lot, and I've not played against this shooty build before. I knew it was doing very, very well down south, so I knew I had to treat it with respect. His build was quite unpleasant. The key nastiness really was he had 2 Mind Screechers, very unpleasant shooty things. He had 2 Screamers, so loads of lightning. He also had Allied Goblin War Trombone with the trolls, just to add to the shooting pain. He also had 3 Hordes of Fiends. Hordes of Fiends are horrible, very, very unpleasant things. So it's a very strong army. So yeah, I got table sides. I deployed behind that hill. My Lycans are on the far left. We'll show a picture of those in a minute. So basically, I advanced over that hill using the giant hedge, which covered most of the table for a bit of cover, and that worked reasonably well. It dinted it a bit. My avatar snuck up on the right, and what it's about to do there on the next turn, it actually zooms forward past the charge arc of those other units he's got facing, because he ended up moving them a bit closer, and then onto the flank of all those shooters, which seemed like a pretty good place. Mm-hmm. Next picture.
Oop. Professional here. There we go.
So on the left, those phantoms, they advanced and went into one of my Lycans, but the Fiend sat there, and Paul completely forgot the fact that, of course, Lycans have nimble and can charge straight past them. So my leftmost unit went into his Fiends, didn't overly expect to rout them, and my rightmost unit moved forward a bit, the beast pack behind them, right in the face of the Fiends, so obviously they can't do anything. Just a sec. So that worked pretty well. As it turns out, I actually did rout the Fiends in one go, so that was pretty lucky there. I was expecting it to take that second turn, but then there we are.
There it is.
Oh wow! I've took a few photos to see. You can see what I did there. So those Fiends have been taken off the table at that point. They're turning round. The wraiths phantoms are facing nothing. The shamans move forward, and all in all, it was looking quite good. And then on the next turn, he took out the beast pack, but wasn't able to do much else. So I was able to route that, and I basically, apart from those phantoms, wiped out his entire flank. Great start to the game. My avatars outflanked him. Great. It's all looking pretty good, to be honest. At this point, I'm starting to feel reasonably confident.
I think that's the last picture we've got for this one, so I'm afraid you have to talk the rest.
No worries. So my avatar was, there was those fiends behind it. So what I decided to do was completely leapfrog everything, fly over and charge the farmer's screamer, and that made a lot of sense. Except you can't really make it out in this picture, but I think just before, after taking it or something, he pivoted it a bit, something like that, because I was actually on the front of it, which wasn't great for me because it meant I only had the 9 attacks. And annoyingly, I didn't do enough damage to kill it. I did like 4 or 5, so I managed to waver it. That wasn't great because it did shooting slightly, but not really enough. And as it turns out, the mind screeches were far, far more important to stop. But I was able to use my stampede to take out his war trombone at least, so that's something. On my left, the Lycans started heading towards the house. One unit to the left side and one to the right. One of them taking the objective because this was a loot.
No.
So in the centre, I was getting to grips with some butchers, which incidentally he actually forgot to charge. But I said to him as he started shooting, I was like, "Don't you want to charge with those butchers?" I don't know why. I don't know why I help people. It's not good, is it? It's silly me. Any case, he then charges with the butchers, and then it wasn't enough to do anything to the stampede, but obviously stopped me getting to his shooting. So it was mostly okay, but then it all started to unravel on the next turn. I went into his butchers with my stampede, but I rolled really poor on the route result and didn't manage to pop them. The fiends were starting to be a bit of a menace, and it all started dying in the centre. The spirit walkers died. I lost some stampedes to shooting and the fiends, and the avatar decided, okay, well, I'll pick on, because where it was, it looked a bit dangerous. I decided to try and pick on another screamer, and still didn't route that one either. So yeah, that wasn't very sensible in retrospect, perhaps. But it's fine. My Lycans were coming up. I'd lost a chunk, but it was still more or less okay. Except on his next turn, the Mind Screechers both turn to face one of the Lycans, so the -1 to hit. Okay, you've now got 24 attacks, because they're like 12 attacks each, hitting on 5, so you should have about 8 hits. But it is damaging on 2s. Any case, he does like 10 damage and routes him in one go. Of course he does. Okay, at this point it's starting to unravel a bit. My stampede killed his butchers, but it was looking precarious, and his fiends were coming in. His trolls had swept around the building. They were heading over to that token. It was all getting a bit falling apart. The other Lycans then had a chance to... They had a token, but I decided to drop it. I know it's risky, because it gave me a flank on his fiends. And I thought, well, if I can take them out, I can send my avatar to go get that token, which I did. So they swapped positions. They dropped the token. The avatar flew, grabbed it. And in retrospect, I shouldn't have done that, because then it all started falling apart more, because the fiends turned again and managed to waver the Lycans. Of course they did.
Ouch.
Very unlikely, unfortunately, but that's what happened. And the stampede was in a very precarious position. It got wavered. So all I could do at that point was back them off. And his phantoms came back from eventually flying slowly around the table. And again, and I'm really silly here, he flew into the stampede and he actually landed partially on the token.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't pick it up, didn't do anything else. And if I'd kept my mouth shut, I actually would have at least drawn this game and possibly won the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I said to him, "Don't you want to pick that up?" Oh, okay, yes, I will. Don't know why I do these things.
Chump.
I'm silly, aren't I?
Yeah,
I know,
chump.
I know. So at that point, he picks it up, and I can't possibly take it off him because of where it is. And my Lycans are wavered, which was what was stopping things from happening. So at that point, I'm down to the Avatar. My Shamans are still okay, by the way, but they're sort of wandering about, not doing much. At this point, there was almost no way of getting it. His Wraiths killed my Stampede and flew across. I could possibly, if I get lucky.
I'm assuming so the Wraiths didn't fly with the token. Uh-oh. Did you let the Wraiths fly with the token, Dad?
Yeah, I might have done. Did I? Did I? Maybe. Yeah, I seem to recall we were on the far side of the unit. Maybe he just moved through the unit because it was his own unit.
If it was only he probably moved through
Yeah,
it.
no,
Let's not assume that, yeah.
He just moved through it. It was fine. It was well, actually, to be honest, though, it would have dropped to speed 5. I don't think it could have moved. And oh, never mind. So there we go. Perhaps I should have noticed that. So because of that, that meant it was out the charge arc of the Avatar. And okay, there was a chance if he had a turn 7, I could rest it back, maybe pull back a draw. We didn't get a turn 7.
Yeah.
So at that point, he won.
Ah.
So my first loss of the tournament. Now, that point where I said maybe I shouldn't have charged dropped the token with the Lycans. In retrospect, what I could have done is I could have gone non-engagement. Now, I didn't expect all my Lycans to suddenly start popping when being hit on 5s. Mm-hmm. But I could have instead ran away with everything at that point. I wouldn't have killed so much, but there's no way he could have caught it.
Yeah.
I would have just automatically won the game. That's not something I normally do because I like to engage. I want to get stuck in. For me, running away, it never really sits well. But
well, if you're playing to win a tournament, you need the big wins.
Yeah.
A 16-4 isn't a big one. You're needing like the 18 and the 19-point wins.
By the odds, I think I should have been okay, but those two fluky, the wave and the route on the Lycans just spelled doom. But yeah, perhaps maybe I shouldn't have let those Wraiths get quite so far. And I certainly shouldn't have told him to pick the token up.
No.
Because otherwise the Avatar could have picked it up turn 6. He could have just sauntered over. Oh, I'll take that.
We're going to need to get you. We're going to need to get you. Just keep your mouth shut, Dan. Sign.
I know. The trouble was, I always try and be nice to people. You know what I mean? And it's absolutely fine, but it does sometimes cost games. But oh well. So yeah, loss. It was a good game, but it was a very, very tough list. Very, very tough.
And then, of course, we come to the most important game, and probably I think the key game of the tournament. Me and you.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd had an unfortunate loss, that meant finally I could get my first chump bash of the tournament in.
Well, you would have been. It probably would have been your first chump bash if the tournament was working in Swiss system. as you, I don't know whether anyone listening knows or not, but as has now become sort of apparent after the tournament, the software wasn't quite set up properly, so we weren't running a Swiss system. It was just matching people purely based on attrition score. So yeah, I end up even with that much wider range of numbers, I still end up fighting bloody Dan again. Every Clash of Kings I've ever gone to, I end up fighting Dan and.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, just advance warning as well. This might get a little bit sweary.
No.
Not for you, just for anyone listening home. If there's kids about, this is still a sore spot, this one. So anyway, Dan, why don't you talk about your deployment here? For those who haven't seen my video where I talk about my side of the game, this is Dominion. Is it called Dominion?
Dominate.
It's basically a 12-inch circle in the middle of the table.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
So I put the Lions' share of my army in the centre. Walter put quite a lot of his on the flank. I mean, so did I, but it was slightly more offset than me. And I got first turn, so that gave me a really great position with that avatar. I moved things up, figuring that everything would have to charge through the hedge, or at least a chunk of it.
Was that your logic? I did wonder why you're the only person. Every other game I played, everyone else backed off or stayed at range. No one came forward. You were the only person who just went rah and shoved it full on and went charge me or be charged.
Per the odds, it was never definite you'd route it. I mean, it was always kind of. There was a reasonable chance you'd waver it, but you shouldn't route it. And
We'll get to jumping ahead there. We'll get to that bit in a sec.
Yeah. So that Stampede's right in the centre. My Lycans hold off. In retrospect, I'm not 100% that played out brilliantly there, that face-off. But there we go. So they were there. So yeah, everything moved forward.
Yeah. Just so you know, and when I was recording my video, one of the things I did see was I was quite happy to have my werewolf sit and look at your Lycans all game. I was quite content that I could handle with everything else what you've got in the centre, and I'd quite happily keep those Lycans looking at my werewolves for a couple of turns.
They both mine and yours started edging towards the centre bit by bit. So next picture.
Because we actually got a number because this was the one I was taking pictures. So
yeah. Yep, so there you can see my centre ready for Walter. That avatar placed so that if he did go forward with a load of units, I'd hopefully get a decent flank, as well as, well, pretty much everything else. And Walter did go pretty gung-ho.
Got them out and put them on the table, Dan.
Yeah. Pretty much everything went in.
Yep. So that's basically what happened was we worked out, and I don't know whether that was by accident the werewolves could get in there or not. Had you intended to leave that bit open?
I could see that they could see, and I didn't honestly think they would be able to fit, because you remember we had a bit of a discussion and we checked. I didn't think they would probably fit. But I wasn't super concerned. I was thinking you can probably get them and I didn't think you could get quite everything in anyway, but it turned out you did. You could.
So that just for the record, for anyone watching, that's the werewolf horde, the vampire and the dragon, and the revenant and the undead worm went in the front of this unit.
That's represented by a base because the model's so big that you couldn't possibly fit it in there with anything else. And you wavered it, which is why on my turn it backed off, which is how it's so far back rather than just an inch. So at that point, I
swore.
I was able to charge my.
I think Dan is what happened.
Yeah. Well, I was a bit concerned. I didn't expect you to go for it with everything, even though I saw that you could. It seemed a bit ballsy.
To me, it was basically an almost game-winning move if I went for it, because I could trap the other Stampede down, and I was feeling if I can pop them, I can turn them face, and suddenly it's an open game.
You did have to be a bit lucky.
I needed 5s to rout you.
Yeah, but I think you rolled above average damage, if I recall correctly.
A bit above, but not massively, I think. I think when you do the maths, it works out. I'll end up somewhere between needing a 5 and a 7 to pop them.
I think it was about a 7, but with inspiring twice, that's not. Yeah, it was a bit more than I was super comfortable with. Let's say that.
Totally odds I'll go for a game-winning move.
Yeah, sure. But fortunately, you didn't get that.
No.
So my Spirit Walkers were then able to go into the flank of the big, nasty Revenant King on Worm. So that was good. And my Avatar went for the flank of the Werewolves. Routed the Werewolves in one go.
Of course she did.
The Revenant King was wavered.
Yeah, he's quite a tough cookie.
I Bane chanted my Spirit Walkers to improve my odds. So that was quite good. I was pleased. Oh, there we go. You can actually see the Revenant King on Worm now. Now, what happened next was a bit surprising for me on your part. You actually charged your Vampire on Dragon into my Stampede. I mean, obviously it killed it, but then it meant that you just couldn't get into a position where you were safe.
Well, we worked out if I got a 6, I'd be safe.
No, even on a 6, you'd still get a flank
Ah,
charge
the
from the
Spirit Walk.
Spirit
Mm.
Walkers.
My logic was I had to kill something, because otherwise that Stampede then comes back in
Actually,
next turn.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, no, as it was, sorry. I think it was like a 5 or 6 would give me a rear charge with the Spirit Walker, because I actually got the rear charge in the end,
Yeah, I rolled the worst.
which is what. Yeah, basically.
I rolled
But I
enough to
think
get
if
the
you'd roll 1 to
Lycans.
4, yeah, so you got away from the Lycans, but you got the rear. I don't think you were ever going to be in a good position there, not with both
No,
of
the
those.
only other option was to pull the Vampire Dragon right back out and then lets you get that Stampede back in the game with
Yeah,
Thunder's
but you had
charge.
flight, so you could have got it into a better position. You could. I would have saved it till later. I mean, it's great to kill the Stampede, but I don't know. There's pros and cons, isn't there? So yeah, you took that, and I got my Spirit Walker's 60 attacks into the rear of the dragon. I only wavered it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
See, my other
which
logic
died
was
because
it
I
would mean
capped
the
it.
Revenant King would be left alone.
Yeah, yeah. Incidentally, it occurred to me after the game. Do you remember you were trying to pivot your vampire and get it out of charge of the Spirit Walkers?
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't have done that anyway. He's not nimble because I damaged you.
Oh, there we go then.
So I mean, it wasn't enough movement to get
Oh
away
no,
anyway.
no, it was we're only
But
doing. Oh yeah, because of backing off,
yeah,
it
because
needed a nimble for that.
you were pivoting and turning to the side, but you
Yeah,
couldn't do that because you'd lost flight.
yeah, of course.
It wasn't enough, and you didn't do it anyway. But it
Mm.
occurred to me afterwards. But it was irrelevant. You didn't do it. Yeah, so that was pretty good. Now we should be mentioning that stampede on the side. Now
Yeah,
that took a
Dodge, Ray
little
of
bit of
Hope.
damage. Well, it actually took above average damage from the first race, but it didn't rout them. I then went back into them, and actually, I was a bit stupid here. I didn't Bane chant them. Didn't matter. I did 4 damage, crap, but then rolled an 8 and routed them anyway.
Mm.
That had a little bit of luck in my favour there, so that was good. My Lycans, as you can see, they're starting to get stuck in. My avatar goes into those zombie trolls where it stays for most of the rest of the game. My beast pack gets in the way of his werewolves, and the other ones all just get ready to charge. So that's that.
So that's pretty much same bit.
Same. Yep.
Yeah, basically at this point it just becomes a bit of a grind fest in the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Normally,
I think
mostly in your favour though. It's quite heavily
yeah.
swung your way.
At that point, I've managed to kill the dragon, and there's now much bigger hole in the centre.
Well, and this was the key turn for me really here. This was the one where the zombie trolls against the Avatar needed anything but a double one to pop it and double wind it. These zombie trolls went in against this horde, this stampede, needed anything but a double one to
No,
pop it and double wind it, all in the same turn. Because then next turn
no,
they all
no. It
got
was
deleted.
wasn't it Wraiths that got the double one against him?
No, nope, it was the zombie trolls because the race by that point had done their damage. You'd been chanted up after forgetting for a round, killed that unit of wraiths. So I put the zombie trolls in, and as you can see, the amount of tokens on there, the zombie trolls come in and smashed them completely, and needed anything but a double one to pop them. Because that was a round that resulted in quite a lot of swearing throughout the room. Because immediately, just after a double one them, they went in, they did a great whack of damage on him at last after sort of being a bit ineffectual, and a double one that as well. So whereas him and that should have popped, instead what happened was they came back in next turn and my units were gone.
Yes. So, ouch.
Yeah, fuck dice. I'm playing chess.
Yeah, yeah. So in the end, what did that give me?
I gave you a 19-1. You basically
It
you
did.
tabled me.
It
You did
did.
actually table me. And then
Did.
so 19-1 to you.
You just killed enough to get that point off me,
Mm-hmm.
which did actually prove important to you in the end. I think for about 3 places or something. So it was a good
Yeah.
job you got it off me.
It's a small consolation, Dan. It's a small
Yeah.
consolation. So after that 19-1 then, you were up maybe about table 5, table 6? Looking still a
Yeah.
podium with within range.
Something like that. Darren Parks was my neighbour, but he was actually ahead of me. I might have been on table 3 actually.
I think it might
But
have
I'm
been
not
actually
100%.
maybe even 3.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was up against Dominic here, and he'd basically played against Paul Fox's Night Stalkers down is it Bristol, and been slaughtered by him. And he decided to copy him. And do you know what? It was very effective. So his list was almost identical, except if anything, it was even nastier, because instead of two screamers and two mind screech, he had three mind screeches, and those mind screeches are so horrible. They really are. In the previous game, we'd seen two of them wiping out my Lycan hordes, so
Mhm.
three of them, I was like, oh no. Mm. And of course, he had the allied goblins with a war trombone.
It is like the new
So,
cheese. I think if I see allied goblins with just a war trombone,
yeah,
I think less of you as a person.
that's why we limited it to one, because back here previously, people found they could ally in three war trombones within 500 points,
Yeah.
and that was horrid. So yes, his army was basically the same as Paul's, apart from that. There was a couple of slight tweaks. He had the shooty version of the Phantoms instead of the flyy ones. So they were Spectres. There we go. So they were okay, but otherwise it was very similar. He deployed all in the centre, all the Mind Firsts together, and I'd seen what it was like last time. I knew if I had to kill those ASAP if I was to have a chance.
Hmm.
I win the roll for first turn. Now, on the basis that they are range 18 and can only move 5 inches, the Mind Firsts, and that's all I really cared about,
Hmm.
I let him go first,
Hmm.
which made sense because he couldn't shoot me. He moved his units forward a little bit. You could just make out in that picture, that's my army there, the terrain. Basically, there was loads of terrain. He set up his whole army up next to those hills and by that big church, apart from some fiends on the far side of it. So he had fiends and butchers there. So I sent my Lycans forward, used the beast pack chaff again to get in the way, and they all fought for a little bit. But because of the chaff getting in the way, I was able to take two into one, rout his fiends, and then rout the butchers, and my Lycans were perfectly fine. So I had the flank again there. Yep, we've heard this before. Now
Hmm.
in the centre, this time I knew I had to kill those nasty, nasty mind screeches. So everything went into the mind screeches. Basically, each turn I had to sacrifice a unit to stop it, the rest of his army from getting into my flank.
Right.
So that's what I had to do. Each turn, which unit am I losing this time to delay him, to get in the way, to die? Because I had no choice. They're that good that basically I had to throw everything at the Mind Screeches. And because they were close together, I could only charge one a turn.
Right.
So the Stampede was going in, I was taking them out, losing units, the War Trombones blowing things up as well. Very, very messy. I managed to get my Shaman eventually, the mounted one, over the hedge and into the War Trombone, and actually managed to take it out. So that was something. I was killing the Mind Screechers, slowly reducing the shooting, but it wasn't enough. Even after killing one, I had two Stampedes right in the faces. The two remaining Mind Screechers both pick on one Stampede, undamaged.
Hmm.
Okay, no, the War Trombone as well. And anyway, all shooting, boom, undamaged Stampede gone.
That's
They're
a
so
nice.
horrible.
As somebody who sits facing your stampedes, I find that quite a nice thing to hear.
No, no, it wasn't nice. So then I take out another one, and at this point, he still gets shooting onto my remaining Stampede, but he's down to one Mind Screech now. At last, I'm getting there. But unfortunately, I've also lost almost all the rest of my army,
Mhm.
just delaying things. But you see, if I'd done it slowly and counted the other units, the Mind Screechers would rip me apart.
Yeah.
This isn't a great army for me to face. It's not a good matchup for me. In retrospect, mine's fine with big shooting hordes, but that's a small shooting area. It's
Hmm.
quite difficult because I haven't got the individuals to counter it, so it was a difficult one. So yeah, I eventually managed to kill all the Mind Screeches. I've got no army left. All I've got left are my Lycans and my Shamans.
Hmm.
And I've killed all his shooting, thank goodness, but he's still got Fiends left, he's still got Trolls left. It's all looking very unpleasant. Now, This was a control mission, the 6 boxes.
Yeah.
At that point, I actually pay attention to the scenario. I'm about to move forward and do stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't need to. I'm going to back off a bit. I'm going to let Dominic respond.
Hmm.
So that's what he did. He pivoted around his last few remaining fiends. His shooty phantoms flew off a bit. I tried chasing them with a shaman. Didn't do much. And at that point, he had his phantoms taking the section by the church.
Hmm.
He had his fiends in his area, and he had his trolls in my area. So I was able on my final turn to get my Lycans into the front of his fiends in his area, which meant that even if I didn't kill him, it didn't matter. I had more points, so that I would then take his area for 2 capture points. And I charged my other Lycans into the trolls. Again, I don't think I actually routed them, but it didn't matter because it stopped them from taking my section. So all of a sudden, it was 3 capture points to me, or points to his 1, giving me the win.
Nice. So at last, paying attention to the scenario helped you.
Yeah, but those mind firsts, those mind screeches were horrible.
So like the Mind Screecher spam was the new filth?
Well, I think it is. I literally had to throw away almost the entire army. To be honest, the Night Stalkers didn't win the tournament. They did very well, but they came unstuck against armies such as the Undead with all the individual vampires. I think that's the hard counter to this list. So I think going forward, I'm going to have to be aware of this potential army and concentrate on at least something that can do quite well against stuff like Mind Screech. Because the trouble is, not only are they super shooty, they're 16-19 nerve. So you can't take them out easily either.
Yeah, it's not like you can lock them down particularly. You can throw maybe an individual at them to stop them shooting, but it's not going to kill them.
Yeah. No, it's not. They're very unpleasant. They really are. So yeah, that was the final game, and that gave me a win. It was what was it? It was a reasonable win. 17-3 to me.
So with that got you up there in 3rd place after all, and you managed to get that podium.
I was quite pleasantly surprised, I'll be perfectly honest. Okay, yeah, I was obviously hoping to get the overall win, but after I got that loss, I knew it was going to be unlikely. But yeah, I got 3rd, and to be honest, when you consider it's gone from 30 odd to practically 80 players, I was quite pleased, very pleased. So, and the cool thing was the difference in placings when you work it out on the rankings and such. 3rd place is still a shed load of points, so it's actually increased my overall lead on other people. The 3rd, so yeah. So I'm definitely still number 1, which is cool.
So the army overall, were you happy with its performance? Do you
my
think
army,
you change it? Is the build kind of where you want it to be?
It worked great in every game. I absolutely loved it. I've got that slight issue versus that Night Stalker build. But to be fair, I did win the second time I faced him. I mean, don't forget I hadn't really faced him before. And in that first game that I lost, I was very unlucky, and I could have run away if I'd really wanted to. I mean, the position of those markers, I could have gone over the hill, got the markers, and then just backed up over the hill.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even have shot me. So I could have run off, but it's not really what I do, but I could have done. So it was beatable. So I actually really do like the army. I could be tempted to put some individuals in there maybe, but because of the COK pack, I didn't really want to go individual because you can't score in the controls, and it just sort of put me off a bit. But I think in retrospect, a couple of individuals is probably a sensible thing.
I'm still debating it, I have to admit. The only game I felt that I really needed them was against Nick with his shooting abyssals.
Freets are unpleasant.
The Freets I just ignored, though.
Well, true.
That's different when it's slightly different. He had 2 units. Yes, they put out a lot of damage, but it's not like he's got like 5 shooting units coming at me. So I'm not sure.
In some ways, getting to play practically the same Night Stalker list was unpleasant, but in other ways, I mean, obviously they were both good guys, and it was actually nice to then come back and find a way of beating it. So even if it did cost me my whole army, I got a win, and that's what mattered.
Hmm. So, thoughts on the tournament overall? Did you enjoy yourself? Anything you'd like to
Yeah,
see
I
changed for the
did.
next one?
It was amazing. What would I like changed? I mean, there's already been an announcement of the new venue. I mean, it's a bit further away.
Hmm.
It's not as ideal for us Northerners and such, but
It's once a
fine.
year. It's like one
It is
tournament. Yeah, I
once a
couldn't work
year.
out what everyone
It's
was
not a
moaning about.
huge deal. It. I worked out the costs, and for me, I'm talking £15 more travel and
Hmm.
£15 maybe more for a room if I want to stay right next to the venue. Otherwise, it's the same price. So it's a negligible difference. To be honest, I'm actually looking forward to it. Cardiff's an amazing place. I've been there before for a tournament,
Yeah.
um, and it's also cool because there's a load of other people who down south who didn't want to travel so much who are now like, oh, I might go now. So it looks really good. And even better, we've already had a load of sign-ups from American guys. I think there's about
Oh, the Americans
four of
coming
them
over for
already.
this one.
Yeah, they signed up. All the guys we're planning on going seeing in Texas, well, not all of them, but some of the main guys there, and from the rest of some others are all coming over.
Oh,
So we've
excellent.
got Mark, Jeff, Robbie's coming over. Um, yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. We've even got Chris Capster coming as well, so Lady of the Lake. So yeah, they're all coming over for about a week or so. So we'll have to go down and drink lots of beer with them.
So where do you see the meta going then after this? Because this was the kind of big one. Overall, it looked like almost every army was competitive. There was a couple that seemed to finish low, but then again there was only like maybe one person using them, so it's
Yeah,
possible they weren't going to be great.
I think it's going to stay quite similar. The fact that Night Stalkers have done so well, and it doesn't even require a huge amount of tactics, really. You just roll to shoot, you get your fiends to mop stuff up. It's a bit too good, really. That particular build. So for me, I see taking my army in a way that will slaughter that sort of army on the basis that Night Stalkers are looking so good for people. People were like, "Oh, I'll take those and do a similar thing."
Hmm.
So obviously, I take my army to be an army that build.
Hmm.
Suddenly, I've got an advantage. So that's. I think shooting's always the popular one because it doesn't require as much, force, or you
Yeah,
just
you
roll the
say that,
dice.
but how much shooting did you honestly run into? Like me, other than Nick, most of the armies I played did a little bit of token shooting, but nothing had a lot.
Gary Sharps came eighth. He actually had ogres, not goblins. He had four shooting hordes, and literally, that was just blowing things up.
Ouch. Okay.
Um, and both those Night Stalker lists were very, very, very shooty.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's popular, but for me, the best army is always the combined arms ones.
Hmm.
Yeah.
As shown probably by the 12 armies that ended up finishing and taking it.
Yeah, I mean that was a bit of a surprise. I would not have picked Tulsa for the top. I certainly wouldn't have picked Down for coming second. But
Almost everybody has said that. I know. Again,
I mean,
I've said this to him now, but when we said the same, but we were talking. We took one look at his list and went, "Yeah, we'll have that."
well, to be fair, I did. It's just no
Uh,
one else could handle it. For
yeah,
me, it wasn't
yeah.
too odd.
I'll definitely
I
have to
don't know why.
catch up with them because I'm really curious to
Yeah,
see how that came around.
I don't know why no one else could cut the mustard. Maybe if it had been pure Swiss, it would have worked out differently. Don't know. No
Hmm.
idea. But either way, he obviously played well, and so did Thomas. I really wish I got to play against Thomas. I was looking at his list, and it was all the high defense such stuff. I would have loved to have faced that army, but
It's
it
quite a
never
small
happened.
elite army, but yeah, I had a look.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah,
if I'd fancied it, but I don't think I'd been too concerned.
yeah. So yeah, it was a really good event. I got incredibly drunk,
Hmm.
which is always good. And yeah, can't wait for next year. Hopefully, they've got room for 120, so hopefully we'll beat that 100 barrier and have an amazing time down in Cardiff.
Excellent. And since you have been a very good boy, Dan, and we've managed to get through this whole thing without one single pun, go on, you can have one for free.
No, I'm okay. Right, I do not feel the need for puns.
Right. Well, thanks very much for dialing in and giving us this rundown, and we'll catch up with you again Probably not too distant future because we've got another couple of tournaments coming up soon.
Yes, we've got Nick's air conflict coming up, the hobby one, 1,200 points. Looking forward to that.
So I'll probably start the build up to that one once we get the last few stuff about the Clash of Kings one out of the way.
Yeah.
Right, well, hope you enjoyed that, and catch you all later.